everybody, welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, where today I'm going to take a look at the gifts of Holy Spirit. And as always, if you like this channel, please like, subscribe, and share. And we're just going to jump right into it. We were talking in the last video about God's love and how when Jesus ascended that he released the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Now, sometimes people will call this the ascension gifts because we have to make everything complicated, I guess. That being said, Paul gives the list. There are 9 gifts, and I am going to read this to you. This is out of 1 Corinthians 12, 7 through 11. Now, to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom, to another a message of knowledge by means of the same Spirit, to another faith by that same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by that one Spirit, to another miraculous powers, to another prophecy, and to another distinguishing between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, and to still another the interpretation of those tongues. All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and he distributes them to each just as he has determined. That was a lot. That was like pretty much one sentence because apparently Paul didn't know how to use a period. But these 9 gifts are mentioned in this passage, and we're going to just take a very brief look at each of them. I'm going to give you a quick definition, and the videos to come are going to discuss the giftings in depth. And when we discuss those, I will give you biblical examples and I will give you real world examples, not just like something that happened thousands of years ago and doesn't happen anymore. So with that, I'm going to look at the message of wisdom and the message of knowledge. Those are the first 2 things. These often get confused with a prophetic gifting for those that are in the charismatic Pentecostal type stream, we'll say. We use these words in a way that isn't actually the definitions. So I read that passage out of the New International Version of the Bible because I have this here ginormous concordance that is written from a New International Version. Now, if you remember, this puppy has every single solitary word in the Bible, and it references it to the definition of the word as it was written in the original language. So it'll take you to the Hebrew word or the Greek word for that word. Did that make sense? It's kind of like a dictionary. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of like a dictionary. So in the NIV, it says message of wisdom. Very commonly, you'll hear it called word of wisdom and word of knowledge, but it says message. And I'm going to tell you what the concordance says. So out of the concordance, the word comes from a Greek word, logos. Logos means word, whether it's spoken or written. That's what it means. And the word wisdom is the word Sophia in Greek. Sophia means that the wisdom is either secular or divine, and it also goes with another word, sophos. Sophos means wise, expert, or skilled. So if we put this all together, a message of wisdom is a spoken or written word that comes through a skilled person that originated from Holy Spirit. That's why it's a gift of Holy Spirit. He had to give it. So the wisdom that you get comes from him. The word of knowledge. Same thing, it's going to say the word logos, which we just determined means word. And from that, knowledge is, in the Greek, a word called Gnosis, Gnosis, a word that we get Gnostic from, Gnosis. And Gnosis just means knowledge or understanding. So when we put that together, it's a spoken or written word that comes through a person's understanding. Now, it's a God-given, Holy Spirit-given understanding, and the 2, knowledge and wisdom, will work together. Usually you get knowledge first. You get the understanding of something, but wisdom means you become an expert in something. You become very skilled in something. Okay, it's a little bit higher up. But if you don't have the understanding, then you won't be able to gain the wisdom. That's generally how it's thought of. So the next gift is the gift of faith. And faith is pretty simple, kind of. It comes from the Greek word pistis, P-I-S-T-I-S. And that means belief or trust with an implication that action based on that trust may follow. So in other words, you have the ability to believe for something that is not seen yet. You believe it will show up and it will come even though you can't see it. That's faith. Next is the gift of healing, or I should say gifts. It's plural, gifts of healing. There are more than one gift. Sometimes that gets debated a little, but literally it says gifts of healing. And that is what you think of. It's the healing of the body or the healing of the mind or the emotions or the spirit or whatever, but that's a gift of healing. Next is miraculous powers, and miraculous powers is miracles. And when I looked that up in the concordance, it basically defined itself. It said a miraculous power is the power to do miracles or something. So I looked up online because I thought this was a really good definition. It is an event contrary to the established laws of nature and attributed to a supernatural cause or an extraordinary occurrence that surpasses all known human powers or natural forces and is ascribed to a divine or supernatural cause, especially God. Miracles. Prophecy. Prophecy comes from the word propheteria, I guess is how you say it. I don't know Greek. And that is an inspired message, sometimes encouraging obedience to God, sometimes proclaiming the future as a warning to preparedness and continued obedience. That's a pretty simple definition. Prophecy can be a lot of things. We'll get into that in another video. Distinguishing the spirits, often called discernment. And the word distinguishing comes from the Greek word diakrisis, which means differentiation or passing judgment. This is a gift. Women have this more than men. For whatever reason, I think that, God makes men and women different. And women tend to pick up on things a little bit better than men do. So this is really one of those gifts where you might be talking to someone and they're giving you some great idea and one person's going, oh yeah, did you hear that was great? And somebody else is like, that's not what's going on here. There's more than meets the eye. And it's not obvious and you don't know why, but you know something is off or something is good depending on the situation. That's a gift of distinguishing the spirits. It's the ability to judge on things unseen, you just kind of know. And lastly comes the different kinds of tongues and the interpretation of tongues. And the Greek word tongues is glossa, I don't know, which means tongue or language. And in this case, it refers to the supernatural gift of tongues. In other words, you can speak a language that you don't know. That's what happened on the day of Pentecost. The Spirit came down and they started speaking in languages that they didn't know. And the people said, how is it that we hear them in our own language? Because they don't speak it. God just gives you a supernatural ability to speak a language. Then there's the interpretation of that language. And the word interpretation comes from the Greek word hermeneia. Which means translation. So it's translating one language to another. And it said this in the concordance, in the New Testament, a gift of the Spirit, it's necessary for understanding the gift of tongues when in an assembly. So this is how that interpretation would work. You're in a gathering, let's assume it's, Sunday morning church. Somebody gets up and goes in some language no one understands. The interpretation is somebody who also doesn't know that language will get up and they'll say, oh, here's what I heard when they said that. That's how it works. We'll get into that, why those things work, why those giftings are given, and where they all came from and all that stuff in the videos to follow. Until that time, hey, have a blessed day.